So she's saying a poltergeist isn't a spirit, it's actually you. I disagree with that. Hello, I'm Emily the Fine Art Medium. I'm a psychic medium who specializes in the paranormal. I'm an astral traveler, an artist, and one of the hosts of the Lights of Midnight podcast. So, in today's video, I am going to be reacting to Melinda, the Mystic Witch, in her video about poltergeists. And I'm going to give my 2 cents of what I believe really is a poltergeist and pretty much dissect what she talks about and give my experience pretty much to, just show how I got what I got for my interpretation anyway. So, anyway, just want to say this too. Not all psychics or mediums or psychic mediums see everything the same exact way. So, whatever I say or whatever she says doesn't make either of us wrong. It's just how we get the information and how we interpret it. So, I just want to leave that there, okay? And so this is not me criticizing her at all, right? But yeah, so here we go.
But I want to talk about poltergeists and what actually they are. But first, before I say that, I want to talk about what Ghost Adventures and other shows are, and even psychic mediums and a lot of other people, paranormal investigators, how they're actually depicting and describing what a poltergeist is by definition. They are describing it as that it's an actual entity that is very active by nature, a very aggressive spiritual entity of itself, and that is an intelligent spirit that is active by moving objects around, moving things, breaking things, and it's very active. This is what frustrates me though. I would watch a Ghost Adventures episode and I watch them once in a while, but what I have recognized is that they do commonly depict the poltergeist, and one time they will have like one thing move and then all of a sudden, oh, it's a poltergeist. No, it's not.
Alright, Ghost Adventures, I can see your frustration because I've watched Ghost Adventures so many freaking times. Sometimes I still do, even though I say like they frustrate me. But the thing is, unless you're a psychic medium and you can actually see what's going on, they're guessing, to be honest. They are, right? So when you see something moving or interacting with their gadgets and stuff, and you can see like it's an earthbound spirit, or it's a demon, or it's something else, and they're saying, oh, it's a poltergeist. That is frustrating, and I do get that. So I understand her point of view. But I will say this. So they're saying that a poltergeist is an entity. So I will say for right now, I am agreeing.
Poltergeists are not actually a spirit. No, it's not. A poltergeist is not a spirit at all. It's actually you.
She seems to disagree with that, but that's her opinion.
It's actually caused by a PK manifestation, which is psychokinesis. Now, psychokinesis is actually done also with demonic entity activity based on demons, where they can actually move objects with the power of their mind. It's based on the power of the mind to move objects. You can't move it with your hand, you move it with your mind. Now, here's the thing. It does take a psychic medium to actually walk into the into the paranormal area, into the haunted location, to really sit and listen and see, but it needs a medium and a psychic medium. Someone who can communicate with the dead, who has the experience of astral projecting, who can actually see on the other side, on the different levels of consciousness, to understand what is going on.
So she's saying a poltergeist isn't a spirit, it's actually you. I disagree with that. Now, I can understand where she's coming from, and I'll go on my little tangent when I'm done here.
You can't just have a paranormal investigator who's never astral projected to just suddenly decide to describe and to literally diagnose the issue like that. You can't do that. You need someone who actually knows on the inside of the other side to understand what's really going on. And when it comes down to poltergeist activity, that's actually what's really happening, is it's happening from the mind of an entity, but it's not happening from the entity of a spirit all the time. Poltergeist activity is actually from the host, the living host, that is causing the psychokinetic energy to occur through psychic kinesis.
So she's saying it's not a spirit, it's not an individual spirit, it's you, right? I disagree with that. But I can understand how she got to that conclusion. PK manifestation and psychokinesis. Yeah, so people do have this ability. Some people do, some people don't. But some people have it stronger than others. And yeah, they can move stuff around and it can look like poltergeist activity, right? That's true. I've caught myself doing it by accident while I was cleaning my house. And I think it was because I was expecting something to happen. Just because I was having like weird things happening around the house. Because I was thinking about it. I was like, what the heck? I don't see anything in my house currently. Why did that thing just slide off the table while I was vacuuming? And it was because, earlier that night, things were going on. And I was like, so I thought it was due to the spirit activity that had gone on previously. But there was nothing in my house because I had cleansed it. And I'm like, what's going on? I cleansed my house. Like, I know those things are kicked out. So what's going on?
I'm not sure if I'm really describing this properly or enough, and I hope I am. I'm not very good with the science stuff about it. But what I do know is that when it comes down to psychokinesis, the power of the mind is very powerful. And when a person who's going through a lot of emotion, a lot of stress, and especially if they're not able to really express it outward, and they're constantly having anxiety, anger, frustration, there's a lot of stress going on, a lot of emotion, and if they can't express it, or if they do express it but it's still happening all the time, and they start having all this activity going on, you'd be surprised how active a person's house can suddenly become because of all that psychic kinetic energy, especially if the person is a sensitive, a person that is a psychic medium, a person who does have extrasensory abilities naturally and they don't even know it. That actually can become very toxic very fast. But again, it needs a psychic medium expert, not just a demonologist, not just a paranormal investigator. You need someone on the inside.
Yeah, when a person has heightened emotions, it can cause psychokinetic energy that makes it look like there's poltergeist activity in your house, for sure. And, I'm not even going to debate that because she's right about that. Okay, but here we go. To say that that a poltergeist spirit is us, I feel is incorrect. And she says that, poltergeists aren't an entity or a spirit or their own spirit, which, for me, let me break it down to how I understand it and from what I learned. And if you haven't watched my thought form video, I would watch it. So this is based off experiences that I've had on the astral realm. All right. And I'll go into the specific experience and what my guides taught me here. And like I said, I believe there are a couple types of poltergeist activity situations that can occur, or other entities that have PK manifestation abilities. So basically, a poltergeist is a type of thought form, if that makes sense. And I'll explain why. And that has to do with residual negative energy sitting and then combining into a clusterfuck and pretty much developing its own consciousness, right? So the thing is, what we do here on this earth plane translates onto the spiritual realms and the astral realms. So anything you're doing here on the waking earth realm, everything you do then corresponds with an equal amount of energy onto the astral realm. So what you do here is then translates into spirit. And so negative energy is very dense and heavy, and it can combine and create something new. Humans are creators. We can pretty much manifest anything. through an experience I had where, I was fighting a monster looking thing that literally looked like the Pokemon Muck, the big purple thing, right? A bunch of negative energies pretty much consolidated into this one giant entity thing. And it started chasing me. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And so I ran. I booked it down the road. I went into this house, closed the door, and, blocked it with my other spirit guide. And I'm like, what the heck? Why won't this thing, leave? Right? Because I was chopping at it. It would be separated and then it would come back together, right? We barricaded the door and we thought we were okay for a while. However, because I was thinking about it, it then started manifesting on the ceiling and it started to form and morph into a bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger version of the entity that I had been fighting. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And they pretty much explained to me that when you put enough energy or thought into something, it can create something else. And so that is what happened. So many people are in a negative mindset. You have negative situations that happen that, leave a negative reaction. And all of that combines together and created this thing. And so that is what happened. And then when we started thinking about it, it then started to manifest on the inside of the house that we were in. All right? And it did have the ability to move stuff around and do all sorts of damage. And it could even, mess with people on the earth realm and make them sick, drain them, because it needs a source of energy somehow. And like negative earthbound spirits, it needs that negative energy to fuel itself. So let's say, you're a negative person and you're hateful and all that. That energy builds up, and while you might not be able to see it, it translates onto the astral realm and it becomes its own thing. And another example here. So I had another client in another country, right? And she's talking about, smelling things and feeling drained and whatnot. And I literally see this cloud above her head, and it's of negative energy. She is in an apartment building. So the thing is, when you live in apartment buildings and you're psychic or you're very intuitive and you're very sensitive to these kinds of things, when you live with other people in apartments, a duplex or a split house, what have you, right? The thing is, when you live around so many people in close proximity, they too are going to have their own, negative reactions, mindsets, situations that create, negative residual energy. And so for her, because she's very open, it came to her because she's like a beacon of light, and they're like, ooh, maybe a food source, right? And it's all that energy from all those people created this cloud. But that's not all that it created. I too then saw this entity that had a shark head and a shark face going around her apartment going, nyeh, nyeh, almost like a Pac-Man, really. It was going, nyeh, 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 eating all this energy, the negative energy that was being created from everyone else that lived there. It was she was having a negative reaction to what was going on, which created further negative energy. And it just caused this thing to go, nyeh, 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 and to eat all of that negative energy that was being put out. And it created this entity. It did. And it has its own consciousness, and it's just eaten that energy. It was so weird to see. I've never seen anything like that. Now, I've seen, other thought forms before, but, almost every single thought form, I shouldn't say every single one's different, but a lot of them are different looking. And I feel like there are some, thought forms that might be similar in appearance to others too. Another example here of a poltergeist thought form here is I had gone to Paracon a week or so ago, and I went to the Crescent Sanatorium booth. I believe it was the Sanatorium one. There's like so many things named Crescent, but what have you. They had these people that do the tour and they do their own investigations there, and they're trying to figure out what the heck it was that they saw. They were trying to label the entity that they experienced, and so I volunteered to give my opinion on what I saw. And so as I did my meditation, I saw this thing climbing and scaling the walls, and they were right. It did look like this tadpole thing with legs. So like a tadpole, it's like the stage between the tadpole and when tadpole becomes a frog, it grows legs and stuff. And it had like this, I don't know how to describe it, but its head was very tadpole-like too, but it had like these teeth. It was creepy. But I could see it scaling up the wall, and it would be biting people, it would be, hitting people, all sorts of stuff. Well, the thing is, how that thing was created was very similar to how the other poltergeists or thought forms were created in my previous examples. Again, negative energy from those that were tortured there, from the violence, from just like the negative and hateful emotions that were going on there, created this thing. Not to mention, it's like when some of the people died there, I'm still trying to figure out the best way to explain this part, but it's like the worst parts of themselves that were left behind, that's the best way I can explain it, also contributed to this thing. And even the worst parts of the people doing the torturing were left behind after, years of it, being abandoned from that kind of practice. Eventually, all of that energy, all of those fragments of everything created this monster-looking thing. And so, again, it is created from the negative energy and the collection of all negative energy, and it developed its own consciousness. And now it goes around, biting, punching, being nasty to people that visit. But I also want to say this too. At that place, there are other entities there other than just that thought form. There are other thought forms there. That one's just one of the main ones that they were focusing on. But there's earthbound spirits, for sure. There are non-human entities. There are spider entities. I hate them things, but they're in there. It's crowded. It's very crowded there at that place. But so, anyway, that was just another example. But yeah, that is what I saw and how that thing was created. And then I just want to go through like what Melinda was saying about other entities creating PK-like manifestations, which yes, demons, absolutely. I've witnessed this firsthand from my own haunting, through other people's hauntings, through, other clients' hauntings. I've seen stuff fly. I've heard stuff slide across the floor. Not too long ago, my dog's bowl slid across the floor. Heck, when I was helping a client in Australia with his demon problem, as I was helping him and astral projecting over there to kick this thing out, my oven glass shattered. I do understand how this stuff works. Then you have earthbound spirits. They too can manipulate their surroundings. It takes a lot of energy, of course. Absolutely. And then some of them become really smart. Not saying that they're not all smart, but some of them, understand and know how to manipulate their surroundings. Like mechanical energy and psychokinetic energy and all the other kinds of energy that spirits are made out of, right? They do not intermingle very well, right? There's a conflict here. That's why, spirits will start messing with your lights, because they know if they, put their energy field in that mechanical energy, it conflicts and it'll cause it to malfunction or blink. Or your electronics. Even draining your batteries that could be part of the conflict of the two different types of energy, but also it could just be them. Some say they can't suck out the energy of, your electronics. I think it can in a way, but it's kind of like they are not satiated from that, especially the negative ones that are trying to feed themselves. They need something from the living. But anyway, so you have demons, earthbounds. You also have elemental entities that can do that same stuff with the PK manifestation, right? I got wind of a case that Chastity was working on, right? I'm not going to give too much details because it's hers. But essentially, there was an entity that was a type of elemental, and it did the same stuff, and it was pretty nasty. And so it's not just a certain type of entity that can do these things. So when you are trying to diagnose a problem or trying to put a label onto an entity, right? It's not always going to be a poltergeist. It ain't always going to be a demon. Like, it takes a lot of experience and being able to see what's going on to identify it. But that's pretty much what I wanted to say about, the different types of PK manifestation. And yeah, Melinda is right too about us creating our own PK manifestation. We do have that capability. But I wouldn't call us a poltergeist. If anything, it's just us with psychokinetic abilities like demons and earthbound spirits and elementals. So, yes, that is pretty much how I've interpreted my experiences. I just wanted to give my 2 cents of what I believe and, to apply my experiences to what I've learned, really. So, anyway, you can agree, you can disagree, it's fine. Like I said, no one's necessarily wrong. This is how she saw it, and this is how I'm seeing it. So, anyway, thank you guys. Hopefully this was not confusing. I know sometimes it can be. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are awesome sauce, and I hope to see y'all soon, really.